Welcome back to the Brothers Mahoney. This is Michael,
And this is James.
and today we are discussing the Robot Revolution, first episode of Series 15 of Doctor Who, or Series 2, I guess, or 43, something like that. I'm sticking with 15. But this one aired just earlier today, April the 12th, and for us it was released, what you said, it hit Disney Plus at 3 a.m. or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 3 a.m., at least in the Eastern time zone of the United States. And if I'm not much mistaken, for the first season from Disney Plus, I think it came out in the US at 7 p.m. instead of 3 a.m.
Yeah, I know the last season is somewhat of a tighter fit, trying to watch and record. I think we always had to record the day after. So
Yeah,
it's nice that we can, I guess, give a theoretically more unadulterated, less diluted viewpoint, so it's fun. Speaking of which, even though it's about 4 p.m. our time right now, we did just finish this, so we've not read anything online or seen other reactions or anything like that, so I don't even know what the main fan base is saying right now. So that'll be interesting to see after we're done recording.
well, the only thing I saw, and I told my brother this beforehand, one of the people we follow on Twitter, and that's not that large of a number, but don't remember which one, said that Space Babies was better than the Robot Revolution. And spoilers, I do not think that's true. I don't know if my brother believes that, but Space Babies was infinitely worse in ungodly and unspeakable ways. This was fine compared to Space Babies. But that's all I've heard about this episode before we watched it. And most of these we will have to watch after we get home from work due to our work schedules. So, nonetheless, it is better than the 7 p.m. slot, where we could only record the next day.
Yeah, and lastly, the Robot Revolution is written by Russell T Davies. And this is a plot I just took from IMDb. I didn't write it, so.
And to be fair, I think the plot is taken directly from Disney Plus. I believe that's the plot they had there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but here's the plot. When robots from outer space kidnap nurse Belinda Chandra, the Doctor embarks on a epic intergalactic quest to get his new friend back home to Earth. Now, I don't know about no epic intergalactic quest, but it was in the plot, bro.
Well, I'm thinking that must refer to the
Season as a
rest of the
whole.
the rest of the season, which is should it be in this plot.
I thought it was like a table description, but I'm not gonna fuck it. Why not, bro?
That's how this episode deserves in the end.
So the performances worth noting. Of course, we have Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. We have Varada Sethu as the new companion, Belinda, and of course she also previously appeared as another character in Boom, which was, I'm not sure if lampshaded is the right word, but it's also referenced here, even showing the picture of the, I guess, previous.
Yeah, it was strange. It was referenced and kind of answered. Because if you watch the trailers for the season, we watched the trailers. We had a video about the trailers and the episode titles.
Yeah, it makes it seem like it's a mystery or something.
Yeah, it makes it seem like, oh, why are you here? This is amazing. You're the same person. And the doctor in this episode says very plainly, oh, you're not the same person. It was just a descendant of yours from 3,000 years later, pulling a similar thing, kind of like they did with Danny Pink in Listen, which is very random and apparently retconned since Danny died. Or maybe there's another case of Gwyneth and Gwyn, where it's like a copy. I forget how the doctor explained it, but it was interesting. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's not going to go the same route that they did with Clara, because it could easily have been a repeat of that. But I guess there'll be something to watch as the season progresses. Another person to watch as the season progresses, and we've already gotten a little already, the next character of import from this episode is Mrs. Flood, played, of course, by Anita Dobson.
Yeah, and it should be mentioned that when we say by import, I would argue the only two imported characters are the Doctor and Belinda. Like, no one else matters at all, I would argue. And I mean anyone, like the antagonist, who gives a fuck. Like, nothing else matters.
I mean, actually, Mrs. Flood matters just because she's of interest, but...
Yeah, she's of interest, but it's not like she necessarily did anything, nor would we necessarily expect her to do anything. But I just mean, as far as this actual story is concerned, the only two people who actually matter, honestly, are the Doctor and Belinda.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, but Mrs. Flood pops up. Apparently, she is now Belinda's neighbor, so she must have moved recently.
Yeah, maybe she always likes living on the left side because she was once again on the left side of where the companion lived.
Yeah, during the abduction of Belinda, she's sort of being marched out by some robots. I have to say, I'm not sure Belinda really fought that hard. Like, I feel like if I was being marched outside by some robots saying they're going to be taking me to space, I would risk trying to get away. But it seems like Belinda didn't care.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, the very opening scene where, not so much the part in the hospital, that was fine, but just the scene where she does get abducted, none of that really worked for me. Belinda sounded way too calm about robots bashing into her apartment, making jokes about her landlord.
Yeah, you don't go rocking things. My landlord's not a very nice man. Shut the
Don't,
fuck up.
don't go rocking things. These are huge robots destroying your house.
And killing a cat.
A cat who didn't exist in the story, as far as maybe there's one in the background. Yeah, the cat existed just to be killed, just to show all these robots mean business. But the main protagonist during the sequence is treating it almost not as bad as a joke, but sort of not treating it seriously. What would Rose have said, or God forbid Dana, if robots like that came busting through her apartment?
I just have to imagine they would have a more realistic reaction. And that was one of my main issues. Well, I don't want to say a main issue with Ruby. One of my main issues with Ruby is that she has no character, which is a pretty big issue, for a character. But I'm just hoping that they can do a little more with Belinda than they did with Ruby. And of course, Ruby is going to be popping up later this season. So maybe they'll finally be able to give her a little something. But I'm not getting very good vibes.
Yeah, I'm worried they won't be able to do all that much with Ruby, unfortunately.
Medaya's cast.
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling it actually is. It might take Big Finish before that happens. Speaking of Big Finish, Doctor was on this planet for 6 months. When there was Ncuti Gatwa story with the woman who played Sasha 55, another character who was in this story, and the, I would say, full companion of the Doctor at the time. We can look forward to a season box set of those two together. And Sasha 55 for the record is played by Evelyn Melee.
Yeah, again, she doesn't remotely matter. She has some emotional importance to the Doctor, but since the audience has no idea who she is or anything about her, when she dies, we don't care. I certainly didn't.
Like, it was... she's literally the cat. She existed to die. They repeated the same thing within 5 minutes. Maybe it's a bit longer, but either way, it's literally the same thing. She is introduced, she gets maybe 2 lines, one implying that the Doctor and her are going to travel together, and then she gets killed. Which is, yeah, nice chatting about, like Michael said, we didn't know her. We'd only just met her. So, are we supposed to feel all that much there? Like, yeah, it's not great to see the Doctor sad and crying like he was. He obviously felt something losing her, but we don't feel that. We don't know her.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that was particularly emotionally resonant. And speaking of not emotionally resonant, last 2 characters, Alan, played by Johnny Green, he doesn't matter. I mean, I guess technically he matters, but not really. Then Manny, who literally didn't matter, played by Max Parker, who on the side note, apparently is one of the main stars in some, looks like a soap opera in the UK. Or at least he was for like 3 or 4 years, so I wonder if that's not why he got this role. Because he literally didn't do anything in the story of any import. But they focus on him as though he was like something to pay attention to, and it just wasn't.
Yeah, this episode seemed like it kind of went by quick, and yeah, it actually seemed like not much happened. It's a very strange combination. I don't quite know how to explain it. But this guy had what? Maybe 2 antagonistic lines towards Belinda, and then at the end of the day, everyone survives, or most people survive, and then he says a non-antagonistic line, and that was it.
Yeah, that's what we call a character arc.
Somebody bring Shabner back.
So that finishes off the characters, but I did just realize I never finished my point about Mrs. Flood. But during the scene in which Belinda's being marched out of the house by the robots, Mrs. Flood is apparently Belinda's neighbor. She's next door watching, and Belinda's like, "Oh, hey, please call the cops to tell my parents I'm being abducted by a robot. She didn't phrase it that way, but it's fundamentally what she was saying. Then, unfortunately, the doctor's been trying to get to Belinda most of the day, it seems. Was trying to find her in the hospital, wasn't able to. She walked out, and the doctor's like literally in the house while Belinda's being abducted. So the doctor races out of the house. Mrs. Flood notices him. Doctor doesn't notice her as far as we're aware. And Mrs. Flood just looks at the camera, straight into the camera, and says, "You ain't seen me." And just turns away before the doctor can notice her. So that's playful.
Yeah, again, it's her talking directly to the audience. Because obviously she did it with the doctor, so she wasn't talking to the doctor. She was just talking to the audience then. It's so strange because we talked about it during the last season. There was even a couple of points, mostly in the Davies Call, where the doctor almost seemed to talk to the audience. I mean, I don't remember if he winked to the audience. There was some scenes playing with that. And all the other times you see it, however, it's mostly just Anita Dobson's character, Mrs. Flood. And so obviously they're still playing into that, and I'd like to know where they're going with it. Because I have worries about this going the same exact way that the whole Sutak issue went.
Yeah, and we'll talk, I guess, a little bit more about that toward the end of this. There was a few interesting things in the episode. Like, this robot's abducted Belinda because apparently... And I guess this sort of confuses me too. She got a star named after her, sort of, which is fine, but... So this is a planet of the star? I'm just confused, because this isn't a star, it's a planet.
Oh, I mean, I don't really know astrological things.
Maybe he thought he was naming her after a star, or naming a star after her, but it's actually a planet.
Maybe it's the Belinda Chandra
system. Like,
yeah,
okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if that was explained properly, but I should also say I don't care that much. But it's sort of interesting. This robot's abduct her because she's a queen. They wanted her to marry some AI thing
which
for some
wasn't an
reason.
AI.
Yeah, it wasn't AI either. I'm not sure why the robots insisted it was AI.
Maybe they also misread the name.
But they also brought Alan there to begin with.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make sense.
No, they brought Alan there. See, this whole I guess this whole planet, maybe the system, I don't know. There was some time dilation when the Doctor came from Earth to this planet. And that same dilation happened for the robots coming and going to the planet. So it must be surrounding the planet itself.
And that's on a side note why the Doctor was on the planet for 6 months when Belinda just gets there. Because they were getting there at the same time, but then this time dilation thing happens, and the Doctor's been there for 6 months, whereas Belinda is just now touching ground. So
it seems like that's just a thing that happens, and it just happens whether you're in a time traveling vehicle or not. So that sounds like a very inconvenient planet to try to leave from. My understanding of it was that the robots that were trying to get Alan were the same batch of robots as it was that had already gotten Belinda, and when they brought Alan back, they showed up 10 years before. I guess the Doctor and Summers got lucky. He only got 6 months.
Then why would the robots have even... Like, why would the robots want either Alan or Belinda if Alan's not already there? It just doesn't make any sense.
No, but Alan was already there. That's the thing. He's been there for 10 years.
You said they were bringing out to get him. So
no, the robots that got him were the robots that had already gotten Belinda. So obviously at that point they were already those robots.
Then why did they want Belinda if it wasn't being controlled by Alan, though?
No, but they had been controlled by Alan the entire time.
But it wasn't because Alan wasn't there yet.
It's kind of, I mean, we see this in time travel things. But the point is, when they brought Alan back, it was 10 years before the Doctor or Belinda get there. So at that time, maybe they're treating him as though he was the Axial King instead of something that they work for. And obviously the robots that Alan had with him were more technologically advanced than the robots that they had then. Because one of the advisors or whatnot said, hey, your robots are much more advanced than what we have. I'm just confused on all the rest of it. Yeah, like he gets made a robot king, and he kind of controls the robots. and he mostly wants to just be like the terrorist state of Israel and bomb his own people and bomb other people. And
Well, see, here's a gamer, an incel gamer. So
yeah, that line might have detracted from it because he also wanted to die and stop suffering how he was, but he couldn't say that, even though he was literally the king or god of the robots. I don't know, I had a lot of questions that perhaps the episode is never going to get into.
there are a few interesting things. Apparently, the robots are faulty in a way that they can't hear every ninth word spoken. Or I mean, I guess they can't ratchet to every ninth word spoken. So theoretically, humans who are sort of trapped on this planet, because it used to be the humans who were controlling the planet. Then 10 years ago, there's a revolution. Now robots control it.
Well, from the way that the doctor, one of them phrased it, that the humans and robots lived in harmony. Now, what that means, I guess,
I imagine it means robots are probably slaves, and that's what harmony means to humans.
I mean, perhaps, but I feel like the doctor was saying that until the robots rebelled 10 years ago, and that, of course, was when Alan was brought into the planet.
So there's a sequence that's sort of interesting in which the doctor's trying to send Belinda a message. Every ninth word he's saying, it's like the start of its own message to Belinda, which the robots can't ratchet. So that's sort of interesting. Belinda tries to do the same thing back. She has to use her fingers to count, but she can figure it out. She's a smart cookie. So that was sort of fun, I guess. Let's see, what do I have in my notes in front of me? Sasha, 55, died. No one cares besides the doctor. Apparently, the doctor was told about Belinda by someone in the future or something. I mean, it's not clear to me what the doctor was told. Like, was the doctor told, hey, someone you met who is a descendant of this one person that's going to be abducted by robots, Varada? I don't know what the doctor was told. The doctor, was it particularly clear on that as far as I could tell? Was it just told, hey, some human woman named Belinda is going to be abducted, go find her? I guess I'm just confused why it matters, to be honest.
Yeah, the way that was just phrased and brought up was just kind of strange. My inherent response is going to be wondering if it's a Moffat thing, where the doctor happened to have been told by himself, and it's going to be something related to what is going on in the season finale, where the doctor needs Belinda with him there, so he needs the doctor to have had Belinda with him. But yeah, I'm not so.
Which in a way was already set up in Joy to the World, with the whole code to the suitcase.
I haven't thought about Joy to the World since Christmas. We watched it, we talked about it, and really I haven't thought about it since.
That's how some new who do, you know, bruh. Let's see. This tower diploma.
One of the things I must admit, this is more of a pet peeve issue. I know that everyone is going to feel this way. But one of the things that bothers me most when seeing sci-fi shows, usually is what it would be in, are when the aliens or robots or whatever misconstrue what a human thing is. I don't know, something about it just annoys the hell out of me. It's been done 2 billion times. And to be fair, we did see a reverse of this in Dalek with that one item Adam thought was a gun. It turned out to be a hairdryer. So that was funny. But it's just, I find it an annoying trope. And in this case, maybe there's a little more excuse. He gets back to the time dilations. For some reason, and this is the part that I think my brother and I both don't really get, the robots brought these tower diploma back to the planet, or were bringing it to the planet. And because of the time dilations, again, the doctor got really lucky. This went back 5,000 years and became a foundational myth of the people on the planet. Now, it's not much of a myth, it just has a name on it, but I guess that's good enough for some people. The question my brother and I had is, one, were the robots bringing this back at another time before the time we actually see where they are abducting Belinda? Or is this from the abduction of Belinda? I have a very sinking suspicion it might be from the actual abduction itself, in which case,
Yep.
I have no clue about how that works.
Yeah, but I thought the doctor specifically said that they got it from the future.
Yeah, I guess the doctor did say that, But I don't understand. I just don't get it because we see it at the end of the episode, which I guess is it the future? It's the present,
I don't even
I
know if that's supposed to be
guess.
taken literally, to be honest.
Yeah, I do. Saw the picture a couple of times. I thought it was hideous. I mean, there's a cool aspect to it, but the longer I looked at it, the longer I thought it sucked.
Yeah, so what I have written down, because we take notes over this stuff, Star Diploma robots gathered from the future when brought back to planet, a time thingy casted to go back 5,000 years and become part of a Foundation myth. And then I have a question, why did the robots even care about it before it became part of the Foundation myth? Because the only reason it became part of the Foundation myth is because it's being brought back by robots. So why did they bring it back before having a reason to care? Unless they brought a lot of things back and that's just the one thing that happened to become part of the Foundation myth, I have no idea. But certainly this episode didn't say anything about that. And I should say, on a side note, I have a bit of a history of being annoyed with some time science fiction-y type stuff. And the only example that comes to mind immediately right now, there's a 2009 movie called Triangle. It's a pretty popular movie within the horror movie community, and I guess movie community in general. I've seen it a handful of times, and I still don't think it makes sense.
Yeah, you have a good review about that movie, don't you?
I do indeed. Yeah, Jake's Horror Corner. If you ever need some horror movie stuff, but that movie just pisses me off. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it can make sense, and it just bothers me. And this is another thing which I don't think this is something that they're going to go try to answer in the future. I think this is probably not going to be relevant later on. But I just don't get why they would bring them being the robots, why they have this diploma to begin with when it's only important because they bring it with them at some point. I just don't get it. And I really don't think we're going to be getting an answer, to be honest. I could be wrong, but my hopes aren't high.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is something that's unsatisfying, like, oh, they're collecting debris in space and it just happened to be on the ship they were coming back home in. And I'm sure that's not it. But why would they give a shit about a piece of paper? From what I could tell, I have to say, maybe I was looking at it wrong. It didn't even look like it was behind glass in the display thing, so I don't know. But yeah, I don't really get what they're going for there. And they could come back to it. Because again, apparently somebody told the doctor that I wish these chapters are already released so we could double check that line. Maybe it has some relation to do with that. But that's the best I can think of.
Yeah, and speaking of Belinda, we've already mentioned that I'm not wild about her sort of casual reaction to the robots wrecking her apartment. Or honestly, the casual way she was abducted to begin with. She didn't seem to have much in the way of fighting it, to be entirely honest. But she also did something in this episode that I thought was sort of, I don't think idiotic is quite the right word, but let's set up the situation. She's brought to this planet, she's queen, technically speaking, but it's sort of like entitled only because technically the robots are still overlords. So yeah, she's queen, but the humans are sort of, they're not slaves as far as we can tell, but they're lower caste system than robots.
We never did see much of the society.
Yeah, so like there's apparently some civil war type thing going on. Humans are fighting against the robots. We don't see really any of that. We see the Doctor, Belinda, and a couple of others escape and make it to. It's not really the rabble base. Well, it's probably a rabble base, but it's probably a handful. I guess. I mean, we don't know, to be honest. Maybe that was the only one. It makes Belinda's actions all the worse, to be honest. But when the Doctor and company teleported there, a small sort of like what Roomba, I think those robot things are called.
Yeah, we do not own one, but I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah,
Roomba.
those cute things that take cigarettes that have ricin in them.
I was about to say that our Roombas come with a nice thing of ricin just to keep people lively.
There you go. So it's a Roomba type thing. It just polishes the floor pretty much, and that teleported with them inadvertently. And the Doctor, once he notices it, sort of turns the power off. He has to shut it down just because if this robot's still running, the other robots, mildly more dangerous robots, will be able to find out where they are located and, well, take them out. It's a rabble base. Ideally, you don't want robots knowing where that is. So Belinda's trying to hop out a little. She's a nurse, so this is a place with some wounded soldiers. She's trying to patch some people up. Then she starts feeling guilty about this. this one guy, Manny, who we've mentioned, is pretty antagonistic. Oh, hey, this is all your fault. No, obviously that's an exceptionally idiotic take. He has literally no understanding of what's going on. And he's just blaming this young woman because he's angry, I guess. What offs, bro?
But she's queen, so I guess she gets to be blamed.
Yeah, I guess. Even though she didn't know she was queen till literally, today. She never wanted the power to begin with. But I guess those things are above Manny's concerns. So, because Belinda's, I guess, feeling guilty, and she feels like she is in a position to do this, she reactivates the robot, knowing that the larger robots are going to find this rebel base. Now, my thing is that I don't know why she would have thought the robots would have immediately executed the rebels. It's not like she knows anything about the society. She didn't go through this planet the Doctor or anything like that. She just did this herself because she's feeling guilty. So as far as I'm concerned, she's literally risking not just the Doctor's life, but the lives of all of these rebels just because she feels bad. It's an exceptionally idiotic thing for her to do. I mean, she has her reasons. She already knows she doesn't have power over the robots. She's already told that the power she holds is nominal. It doesn't really matter.
The most she does is beg the robots take me instead, don't hurt them. Which, did she think they'd just say yes? But I guess they did?
It's just an act that literally could have killed, I don't know, 15, 20, how many robots were there at the time? She literally could have wiped all of them out.
You kill people for less than this. This is unacceptable in any type of underground resistance movement. You don't just bring the armies to your base if you're feeling bad about something. I don't know. I doubt it will ever come up again, honestly. I don't think the Doctor is going to mention it. But
yeah, I'm not quite sure what it shows about Belinda's character. Maybe she's a bit impulsive. But she put some thought into it, I guess. But
I think she was just really guilt trips. I guess she was impulsive, but she was, even after she turned down, she went and talked to the Doctor.
Yeah, she didn't even warn him.
She didn't warn anybody. She just expected robots to come to the rebel base and everything was just going to be fine. Or maybe she didn't care, which would be an interesting part of her character, but that's obviously, I think, not what they're going for.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I just hope they can make Belinda's character a little more, I don't know. I don't know if realistic is the right word, but I just want to see more from Belinda, some actual character traits. Because, like I said, I'm not quite sure what this shows about her character. It'd be interesting if we see more idiotic decisions in the future from Belinda. I mean, to be fair, she doesn't want to be a companion. It's not like she has to play by any quote unquote rules. There's literally no reason why she should listen to the Doctor.
It was kind of nice, actually. It was a part of her character that I thought was actually done well, which is already happening faster for her than it ever did for Ruby. But she called out the Doctor when he just quickly scanned her DNA because he was interested in finding an answer for something. She just told him off right then and there. You scanned my DNA without asking. And she literally shames the Doctor into admitting, I'm not sure how serious he meant it, but that it was inappropriate. And I forget the other way he phrased it. Completely unacceptable, I think. And yeah, but you've been doing that thing for probably at this point centuries. I mean, more than that at this point.
Yeah, and I was immediately taken back to New Who season 1, episode 2, Under the Warlord, where the translation thingy was in Rose's mind, and
it gets inside my head, and you never even asked me. Oh, I never thought about it like that.
Let's be honest, the Doctor doesn't care. He might like humanity for some reason, but I don't think he particularly respects him in a lot of ways, to be honest.
He almost might respect the idea of humanity more than actual humanity itself. Which, to be fair, I'm on board with that. But
yeah, but individual autonomy, I just don't think he cares much of the time.
The only autonomy he cares about is the book.
There you go. But yeah, at the end of the episode, Belinda wants to go back home. The Doctor's trying to persuade her, hey, this is a mystery. I guess the mystery being you look exactly the same as a descendant of yours from the 51st century. I want to find out why. He even drops the term destiny. Well, actually, I think technically Belinda used the term and Doctor was sort of agreeing with it. And that was, I think, an interesting line James pointed out. But obviously the 14th Doctor had that line about, I don't believe in destiny, but if I did, it's bringing me to Dana Noble, or something close to that. So, assuming, that character trait would be consistent theoretically, the 15th Doctor also would believe in destiny. And I don't think necessarily that Gatwa's Doctor does. But in that case, if he doesn't, then he's sort of, in a way, lying just so she will stick around so he can figure out this mystery. Which, it's not necessarily surprising. And it's not really, I don't know, it's not like it's a slimy way to do it, but it's certainly manipulative. If he, in fact, does believe in destiny, if he's changed in the last, 700 years or however long he's been this Doctor, maybe he actually believes in destiny now, and this woman is apparently destiny.
Yeah, I caught this line just because there was a great line from the 14th Doctor, and yet we just have this Doctor saying, "Oh yeah, it's our destiny." I do get the sense that he was kind of just maybe laying it on a bit thick, just because he wants to solve a mystery. He thinks being with her will make it easier to solve. It's really something I think Matt Smith would have done, actually, now that I think about it.
Are you saying that Belinda's the new Impossible Girl?
Well, like, they started up in a similar history, but then they kind of throw that out the window by him saying, "Oh, I just wanted the standard of yours." I'm not sure why he's even all that interested in that. I guess he's only interested because, could it possibly be a coincidence that I ran into you and I ran into a descendant of yours? And the answer is yes. I don't know why that could it be.
Yeah, so it was sort of interesting seeing the Doctor trying to convince Belinda to be a companion, but she's just not interested. She has a job. She really wants to, I guess, start working out the following day. So she wants to be brought back to, I forget, I didn't write the exact date down. Was it like May the 24th or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was May 24th.
Yeah, so she wants to be brought back the day that she was abducted, which I guess makes sense. Now, apparently the Doctor's not able to do this. I think he said that they're sort of bouncing off Earth in a way, at least bouncing off, not Earth, but bouncing off that day on Earth. So I was just honestly thinking, why don't you just go back a day earlier, hide her out for a bit, then you can, I guess, get reinserted into your life? Would that not work? I don't know if they tried, but if the solution is, I couldn't get back on that day and I have to go back to 1952 Florida. I mean, I'm just not sure if that flows, bro.
Well, I'm assuming, at least, I guess we'll find out next week. I'm hoping it's something like, I tried to get to Earth and this is the best I can manage.
Yeah, it might be something like that. I'm assuming it will be explained in some type of way, but I do hope, he tries to go back a day earlier. So we'll see what happens there. So yeah, Belinda is now with the Doctor in the TARDIS, an unwilling companion, wants to get back home but is unable to, which is where we are left at the end of the Robot Revolution. And it seems to me that this season opener leaves 3 potential mysteries that we're supposed to, I guess, be interested in. The first one, of course, being who or what is stopping the Doctor from getting back to Earth, and why. And are they necessarily stopping the Doctor or stopping Belinda? So we have that mystery to contend to. Could it indeed be Mrs. Flood, now that the Doctor's gone, wants to make sure he's gone so she can do her plans? Who is to say?
Yeah, I don't know. I hope it's maybe something more naturalistic than an antagonistic force, but I don't also know what that could be either. I want to know more about what the actual problem is. Can you not get to that day? Is it just that? Can you not get to the year? Like, we saw this kind of in the Angels Take Manhattan, where the Doctor somehow, it was impossible for him to get to New York in 1915 or 1920 or whatever, even though obviously, well, can he go to Chicago and just take a plane? Like, that's an easy workaround. And of course, in that episode, they didn't do it because they wanted a nice sender for Amy and Rory. But I want to know more about the problems that the Doctor's actually having, and I want him to explain it to Belinda. And I'm assuming Belinda's going to have to ask specifics, because this is literally her trying to get home after she told off the Doctor, "I'm not your advance, so take me home." And she was pretty insistent about it. So I appreciate that in her character. But I'd just like to know more of what the actual problem is before I can make any guesses if it's an actual antagonistic force or what's going on there.
Yeah, so that would be, I guess, Mystery 1. Mystery 2, that star diploma. Why robots have and why do I care? And I guess I can answer the second one. I don't really care. But again, why did the robots have the diploma before they had it as part of the Foundation myth? Again, I really don't think we're going to get the answer to that. But maybe I'm just being a bit of a doomer just because I found last season somewhat unsatisfactory. I'm hoping, and we saw this during the trailer discussion. I really am hoping that this season is a little more consistent than the previous one.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. It's already about to start in Space Babies was, and for the record, I also like this more than Joy to the World. It's not much stronger than Joy to the World, but I think it's maybe a 0.5 stronger, at least for me.
The thing is that Space Babies was so terrible. And I mean, like, terrible. I'm talking about no amount of numbers on that track can get me to watch it again. Except for when I watch it again, naturally. But it was terrible. So, of course, I would have to imagine almost any season opener is going to be better than Space Babies. It's hard for me to imagine one that could be worse. So, yeah, this certainly was better than Space Babies, but it's not really saying much. And I guess the last mystery ties into the final scene. So we had the Doctor and Belinda looking out to, I guess, Earth. I mean, we didn't see Earth. I'm not sure if Earth was quote unquote supposed to be in viewing range. It's not quite clear to me. But they were halfway between Miss Belinda Chandra star planet thingy and Earth. So they were at the halfway point, theoretically looking at Earth. Earth wasn't there, and the Doctor can't get any closer. Then the TARDIS dematerializes, and then we see things from Earth floating in space. I think the first thing we see is a track, or maybe a cab. But then you see things like a pyramid and a Statue of Liberty and a calendar, and hey, even the Star Diploma thing. So it seems to me that's setting up the idea that Earth was apparently destroyed, and these are objects floating in the void of space. Now, what's not clear to me is why the Doctor did see these things floating. Was he just exceptionally poor at timing this out? He just misses out this debris floating in space, so he doesn't even know Earth is gone. So yeah, it seems a bit odd to me, but that seems to be what I took from it. Earth is destroyed on the same day that Belinda was abducted. We don't know why, who, how this happened, but at least to me, that seems to be the expectation of the audience.
Yeah, and I'll point out, this scene made me, I don't know if it did for you, it reminded me a lot of a scene in The Stolen Earth, where the Doctor materializes with Dana on planet Earth, right as Earth is being taken by the antagonists of that two-parter. And that was a very well done scene where we see the Doctor and Dana standing in a emptiness of space, but the Doctor says, we haven't moved, this is supposed to be Earth. Where it's clear something went on with Earth. In this one, does the Doctor know the Earth is gone? Is what's going on? Is the Doctor aware of any of that stuff? It was that Chibnall-esque thing where he saw off screen, but we don't see what they were seeing, which unknowingly happened multiple times during Chibnall's run. Again, I want to know more of what the Doctor thinks the actual problem is. He says it's being bounced off of the date or bounced off of the Earth, one way or the other. But does he actually think that Earth is still there? Again, I think a lot of this is going to take episode 2, hopefully to see what the Doctor is actually thinking. And I pray to God that this next episode starts with the Doctor and Belinda talking, not just diving into the adventure. I just feel like last season there was not all that many times where we saw the Doctor and Ruby just talking to each other in the TARDIS and interacting, which is how you build a friendship and a companionship, especially for an audience.
Yeah, but with only 8 episodes, you have to do away with that. Just get straight to the money shots, bruh.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the money shots. Like I said, this episode felt like nothing really happened in it, even though things, I guess, did.
Oh, yeah, and that reminds me, I want to briefly, and I do mean briefly, discuss the antagonist. It was the great, the great AI generator, also known as Alan, and that's, I guess, I thought it looked hideous, the, I guess, look of the AI generator. We'll have a picture up here. It didn't look particularly good. I can't say I cared that much. I mean, it looked awful, but the whole thing to begin with, I just didn't care about. Like, yeah, they can call it an antagonistic force, but it's no more impressive than, well, any number of things you might have seen during Chibnall's era, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought the antagonist was kind of terrible.
Like, this guy, Alan, likes video games. He was brought to a planet. It's like, oh, it's like a game that can just kill people. House, yeah. And he does it. I don't know. And again, I just don't care.
I mean, I would say, I actually thought there was more personality than Belinda sort of was got on the planet. I almost liked what they were going for in that scene. It's just all the rest of it, I really just don't get out of that wall.
But yeah, so as far as I can see, those are the 3 main mysteries. Why can't the Doctor get back to Earth? Who's stopping him? The Star Diploma, why is that matter? And 3, is Earth destroyed? Why was it destroyed? How was it destroyed? And on a side note, the whole Earth destroyed thing, it actually reminded me a little bit of the opening of Season 5 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which there's a arc that took place in space. and there was a section where they saw debris from Earth floating in space. It was actually a pretty cool reveal, and they actually handled that pretty well in that show. And I can only hope they can get half as satisfactory answers for this season as they were able to do in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which might have been a bit of a mixed show. Certainly reaction was mixed, but honestly, for the most part, I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, we've not finished the last season, but we've watched up to halfway through season 7. So we've basically seen all of it on the whole. And the show was, I've always phrased it this way, the show was more consistent than Gotham ever dared to dream.
Yeah, you were at Lon.
Gotham was one of the most inconsistent shows I have ever watched, and finally enough, we actually haven't finished that one. But no matter how it ends, it's not going to change the consistency issues that were so apparent in Gotham. But Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., from the beginning to the end, it was just all solid to me. I get the strong feeling that they're not going to be half as interesting this season as they were in that one, which again was season 5. But fingers crossed.
Yeah, and I guess for me, the problem I have is that with these 3 mysteries, not a single one of them is as interesting as who Ruby's mother was and why it mattered. And the problem is that despite the fact I found that interesting, I did find that legitimately interesting question, I found the solution laughably terrible. And if that was a more interesting mystery than what this season's offering, that's a problem. I guess it all depends on how they approach and how they answer these questions. Maybe it can be really interesting, but I just don't care for these overall questions to begin with. Because, like Jim said, who is stopping the Doctor from getting back to Earth? Probably an antagonistic force, maybe naturalistic, but we don't know. And I guess if it's just like some type of alien species trying to stop the Doctor from getting back because if he does, it's going to prevent Earth from being destroyed. I don't know. I just don't care yet. I don't have a reason to care, and I'm just hoping that I eventually will care in the next 7 episodes. Because otherwise, it's not going to be a lot to look forward to. Of course, there's always the underlying mystery of the whole Mrs. Flood thing, and that is something I'm still interested in. But I also have decreasing hopes that it's going to be satisfactorily answered. And I think I have reasons, very good reasons, for having lowering hopes for that.
I don't think my hopes have changed after watching this episode from where they were before. I just want to know where they're going, what plots of these they plan on connecting. Because maybe the whole Earth thing isn't related to Mrs. Flood. Maybe the whole Earth thing is even related to the fact that the Doctor is bouncing off the planet. Technically speaking, they don't have to be related. Like, maybe the bouncing off the planet is a Mrs. Flood thing and the Earth thing is a whole other mystery. That would be kind of interesting. But either way. And yeah, I don't know, this whole overall episode, it was okay. It's certainly never going to go in my favorite first episodes of a companion. I mean, even Torch and Ruby Road might beat that one out. Maybe just because this story is more interesting. But I don't know. It was better than the name of the episode, which was The Robot Revolution, and the name is terrible. It certainly wasn't great. The best I can say the episode is good. Like I said, I liked it more than Joy to the World, and certainly more than the ending of Empire of Death, or the episode as a whole. But I'm about to see where this goes. But I'm very worried that because of the 8-episode length, they won't have enough time to make this an actual interesting mystery, and they might not tackle it all that much next episode because they have their own episode to get through there, which is going to be completely unrelated to, at least it looks like it's going to be completely unrelated to the overall mystery or mysteries. So they just don't have all that much time to work with it. They don't even have all that much time for 2 of them theorize about it. And that's part of the problem of having last episodes like they do right now.
I'll just say that I found this one underwhelming. Now, on the one hand, that's to be expected because I think a lot of people found the Robot Revolution the episode they were least anticipating. So people were saying, oh, hey, which episode are you most interested in? And it wasn't uncommon for me to see this episode listed last. Like, people were least interested in this one. So the fact that it comes out to be a somewhat generic, underwhelming episode, I guess it sort of fits. So I guess if you look at it that way, it's not a portent of things to come. But I'm also looking right now at the list of like all the opening episodes of seasons. And it's unfortunate that despite this episode not being that bad, well, let me rephrase, I do think it was not particularly good, but this episode wasn't terrible, but it's still like among one of the worst openers. Like Rose, New Earth, Smith and Jones, Partners in Crime, 11th Hour, Impossible Astronaut. I think the first one that I actually might like theoretically last in this one would be maybe the pilot, and I probably like the pilot more just because it's interesting. So it's just unfortunate that this episode, even if it's not terrible, it's certainly not memorable. And it's nowhere close to like one of the best openings of a season. Like, yeah, it's better than Space Babies and it's better than Halloween Apocalypse, but again, it's not saying much. Those are like two terrible episodes. And I'll be honest, I like Spyfall Part 1 more than this.
I did not, for the record.
That's just because you don't like the master, bruh. USB tripping.
I don't think I liked that much either. I'd be interested in the big finish stuff, but we're not going to hear that for another 8,000 years. So.
Yeah, well, yeah, my point being that this episode I thought was exceptionally generic. I'm not sure it did much justice to Belinda's character yet, though I am hoping in the future we'll see a somewhat deeper look into who her character is. Again, I don't think it's just necessarily a terrible episode. I just don't think it's memorable. Certainly it was better than Space Babies, but does it really mean anything? Like, being better than a piece of dirt isn't an accomplishment. You just hope something would be. So yeah, we'll see how this season goes. Like I said, the fact that this was the episode that a lot of people were least interested in does bode somewhat well. Because yeah, maybe this one didn't hit the right spots, but maybe future stories like The Wild or the story on the Ancient might actually do what people are hoping they do. So the fact that this one isn't necessarily the best opening, maybe it's not going to mean much in the end. But yeah, like James, I don't think my hopes have changed much for this season. I'm still cautiously optimistic that they can work things out. And I think this is actually a good segue into the fact that there's been a lot of discourse on Doctor Who Twitter, which, again, I know we often repeat this, but it's worth repeating. James and I pay very little attention to what people talk about on Twitter. We don't get on every day and get into discussions, for the most part, because a lot of it seems to be freaking out over nothing. And you see the type of thing I imagine in any fandom, so I'm not critiquing particularly Doctor Who fandom. But there's been some things that Russell T Davies has said that seem to indicate that this might be the last season of Doctor Who for the foreseeable future. And I don't have the quote in front of me because I wasn't going to make this a big topic, but it seems to be in a lot of people's minds that this might be the last Doctor Who. Of course, we have the, what's it called? The War Between the Land and Sea.
Yes, which is supposed to be a unit spin-off.
Yeah, so some people are thinking that, oh, maybe there won't be Doctor Who next year, but maybe we'll have the War Between the Land and Sea, and then the year after that we'll have Doctor Who. So it sort of, quote-unquote, replaces Doctor Who for like a year, which I think would be a mistake anyway. But you see things on obvious side, like some people saying, oh, maybe it'd be a good thing for the show to take a break. The idea, though, that it's just a quote-unquote break, that it can just come back at any time, is somewhat optimistic, I think.
Yeah, that's not really how TV works.
Some people are saying that just because of the very nature of how people have changed in their consumption of TV makes it that a show like Doctor Who isn't even feasible. Like something like dropping out episodes to encourage like binge watching might be more accessible. Now, something like that I don't think would work for Doctor Who either. But it is true that there's a lot of changes in how people watch TV. I mean, we haven't had cable for what, like 4 years now, 3 years, something like that?
No, we haven't had it, in about 4 years now. Because we haven't needed it. Because how can you lose?
Yeah, and how can you lose? I mean, so yeah, there's just a lot of changes, and obviously I have no idea if Doctor Who is going to go on or not. Some people say, oh, hey, this season is going to... Some people say, hey, the reaction to this season, if it's overwhelmingly positive, maybe Disney will keep it going. I don't know. I just hope that, again, we have a more consistent season this year than we did last year. Because there were certainly some decent episodes last season. Boom, Dad and Babel, I thought were both quite good. All My Hazy Days was Dad and Babel, The Bee's Knees.
I mean, it was certainly better than most of the other episodes besides Boom, so...
Yeah, I mean, it had some life to it anyway. So, I mean, for a Dr. Light, somewhat more Dr. Light story, I had a decent time with it. But there's also some quite terrible episodes like Space Babies, like, what was it, Empire of Death, was that part 2?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm hoping for a more consistent season. Hopefully we can get it. And I guess we'll see what the future of the show is. I also think, though, it's no point in like freaking out about it or like trying to panic over this. I mean, worst case scenario, the show gets canceled, Big Finish shuts down, no more comic books, and it's nothing, bruh. But hey, at least you have us.
That is the worst case scenario. Yeah, my personal thoughts on this again, we don't really do these types of discussions other often, mostly because what happens is going to happen. I prefer to have the show not end after this season, but if it happens, we still have like 2,000 big fitness things that we need to listen to. There's still tons of Doctor Who material, and Doctor Who will continue on. So it's not like it's the end of Doctor Who, even if Doctor Who stops having new episodes for some time. It's still going to exist, and there's still going to be tons of stories you can read with your favorite Doctors. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I would say support the season, but don't go around saying the season is great if you don't think it's great, or if indeed it isn't great.
But yeah, that's all we had to say about both the Robot Revolution and I guess the current state of Doctor Who. Fingers crossed that, what's this next episode, Lux, I think it's called?
Yes, Lux.
Yeah, this one's always been interesting. What we've seen in the trailers make this episode look like it could be quite the experience. So we'll see how this one goes. Looks potentially playful. But let us know what you thought about the Robot Revolution, how this season opener treated you, what you think about Belinda, I guess. But yeah, I guess that's all we had. If you wanted to reach out to us, you can either comment down below here on YouTube, or we do have a Twitter at Brothers Mahoney that we should be a little more active on now that there's a ongoing season happening. So we'll certainly be interested in reaching out and seeing how other people thought about this episode. So that should be interesting to see what reaction has been. But yeah, you can always reach out to us there. But yeah, I think that's all we have. Anything else on your end?
No, I'm just really keeping my fingers crossed for what's going to come up in this season. And just hopefully this season will work out better than the last one did for us. Like I said, it's already about to start a small bit, so that's something at least. Which is really all that can be said for this episode.
But indeed, that is all we have. So thanks very much for listening. This has been Michael.
And I've been James.
And you've been enjoying the Brothers Mahoney. Have yourself a nice week, and we'll catch up with you then.